I got you all on my own. Just the two of us alone. But for the last hour, all you've done is moan. Because I stuffed your mouth with styrofoam. You know it's over when I'm all over you. I'll bind your wrist for one last kiss. You know it's over when I'm all over you. Baby, please don't hiss for our last kiss. I might just kill you with my charm. Now that you're all disarmed, it's up to how you look alive when I strike you with your arm. Time to go. I have a date. I think you know what's on your plate. I'm not sure how much more you can take. It's time for you to meet your fate. You know it's over when I'm all over you. Baby, don't look pissed for us.
Last Kiss, the name of that one. Some local music from the Evil Streaks right here on Rhode Island Free Radio, online at rifreeradio.org. Before
Yeah,
that, we heard from Michael Graves, Dead Man, the name of that one. You cannot make up these segues.
No, I'll tell you, when it comes time to design my customized, realistic sex doll, I think she might look a lot like Myra from the Evil Streaks.
I will steal her from you.
I'll share.
No, I do not do sloppy seconds.
Oh, good God.
If you use the proper sanitizer, it'd be like it's never been used
Exactly.
before.
Man, no,
Exactly.
man. My look,
At half the price.
Right.
I'll be
I'll
pulling the
sublet her.
pubic hair out of my urethra afterwards. I get stuck there. No.
No, these things are designed to be fully cleaned and reused.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
mean,
you could use a garden hose this thing down, blow it out, and they have escape ports for any bodily fluids which are left behind.
You just leave it on your bed and let it drip out.
I'll tell you though, we've been what would you say, making light of this subject up until
True.
now, but we were talking under the music. This, I'll tell you, culturally and society-wise and technologically, especially sociologically, I guess, this realistic sex doll thing, male and female, this is going to be a cultural changer. Or I guess
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we're approaching a point where as soon as these things look realistic enough and can act realistic enough,
The nerds get laid.
well, no, the nerds are still not going to get laid because, well,
Nerds will have
No.
to ask mom for the money.
and
Could
then
you
but they'll-
imagine the realistic sex doll booth at a Rhode Island Comic Con?
Oh, my God. They
It'd be
would
going
sell
like
out.
hotcakes.
Yeah, but no, you guys are missing one thing, that the nerds are still going to be afraid to ask out the sex dolls,
Well,
And the sex doll will still deny him.
and the sex doll is
No.
still going to slap them in the face.
well, I mean, if you look at it, the price of one of these new, highly technologically advanced sex dolls
Right.
is only a little bit more than a very high-priced
hooker.
call girl.
And it's much cheaper than marrying a chick and buying her a house.
Right, and you get to keep this creature indefinitely. Probably routine
We won't
maintenance.
use creature, but we'll use.
Being.
No, it's not even a being. It isn't it. It is a toy.
Oh, yeah. Toy.
It's still made out of silicone and plastics and latex, and Exactly. If you didn't hear that, someone in the corner said it's a man's vibrator, and that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Well, let's not forget that there's these beings are going to come in two sexes.
Of course.
We've been talking about females for men. There's also going to be males for women.
Well,
And
if you look at it
so
right
inclined
now,
males.
the sex toy industry makes its bread and butter off of toys for women. How many toys do you have for guys?
Well,
if
it's
you
short
have-
range, but it's a limited.
It's very limited. All you need is a hole.
Right.
I don't care how much you dress up that hole. It's a hole.
A tree trunk for me in the backyard.
Winnie the Pooh sex doll.
Complete
However,
with bees.
when you get into the ladies' variety, they have this one that's smooth, this one that's bumpy, this one that's this long, it's this wide, it's this this color.
Right, one hole or two. I mean,
Actually, they do have those options. Actually, they
I
have
know.
to the point where it gives you stimulation, both holes plus the clitoris. Plus
I know that's what I bought
something
my
else.
we can get it up. And if you have a girlfriend who's an info,
You're talking.
I mean,
you're
she's
talking
either
to a
going
person.
she's either going elsewhere or I'm buying her one of these things.
I could have an
I'm worried
eye
if- I'm
hanging
worried
out
if-
of my skull. My eyeball would be dangling completely free, except for the nerve attached, and I can still do it. Yeah, I mean, it's a special breed of person that could do it. I understand that.
Listen,
I
I
had food poisoning and pneumonia, and I was still able to
Can
perform.
we get to the Rock already?
Yes,
This
but-
poor man over here.
yes.
Seth
you-
is turning redder
well-
by the second.
well, first of all, Ed, you stole his microphone.
I'm so, well.
First of all,
Beat him up, Seth. Take it back.
He doesn't want to join in on this.
No.
Too busy throwing up.
okay, so right, so basically, right. So Ed's just preventing that microphone from going to waste.
Exactly.
So I got one question for this sex toy thing, and then I'm
We're
going
going to the music. You,
No,
didn't
no,
you just
I
say
know,
you
I know,
wanted to-
but I gotta ask this. Any other time a woman finds a bumpy penis, it is no good and she runs, but she buys a toy that simulates a bumpy dildo.
that's because when
What?
that's because usually when a penis
Because
is
it's ripped
bump,
for her pleasure.
So aren't my herpes, but she runs from them.
Well, there's a difference.
Yes,
When it's the herpes are made out of latex, they're not going to transmit anything unless it's left over from the last time
I
she
could put
used
some
it.
latex over them.
Charlie Sheen version.
Charlie Sheen sex toy.
By the way, I will take the hate mail because that came off of my microphone, but that was Seth. If it's the Charlie Sheen version, it's questionable what the outcome may be.
I'll tell you, I'm not impressed by Charlie Sheen anymore because he only gets AIDS after it's safe.
I know.
I mean, what,
Now that should be a T-shirt. Coming soon from George Goner Clothing.
now on that note, as promised, as requested by Chuckles, as promised by me, and we are going to get to some music talk here with Seth, who is right now he's composing himself. Ed has given him back his microphone
Address all hate mail to George Goner,
as
care
usual.
of Rhode Island Free Radio.
As usual. But now, Seth, okay, now we're switching to music. Now, one thing we're not going to do, since Tony is nice enough to produce this special edition on, of our radio programs, I guess it's a United radio program tonight, we're not going to discuss KISS.
That's fine. That's okay.
I guess, out of respect for our producer,
I hate Kiss.
well, nobody cares about respect for you.
Oh, you better.
I'm just more concerned about the man behind the controls that might get up and walk out if we talk about KISS. So
And after
what-
this last broadcasting segment, I'm going to have a lot of editing to do behind this console.
Hey, listen, I didn't hear one word in that whole segment that was FCC negative. Actually, I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's all scientifically correct.
We talked about that subject without, yeah,
And that's why they must teach sex ed, so we can be educated.
there you go.
Yeah.
We found out the real purpose for it, so we can talk trash on the radio indefinitely
And
without
be legal.
without running afoul of the SCC. Okay, but now, Seth, musically speaking, I don't know, I'll just ask a general question to lead us into it because I don't know where this is going to go. Like,
Okay,
all right,
I'm open.
All right, lately, all right, musically, what's impressing you? Like, where do you want to go with this conversation before one of us takes over it again?
Well, I mean, there's a new band called Inglorious that it sounds really good, 60-ish, maybe Doors, Stones. I mean, I see a lot of bands like that, Rival Sons, that kind of going back to the 60s, 70s rooted rock, as opposed to a lot of stuff that's out there.
Like really retro?
Very retro, yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. I mean, I'm sick and tired of classic rock. I mean, does this mean I just have to listen to it again?
You have to define classic rock now, because there's bands still putting out records that are defined as classic rock, and I don't understand why they do that.
Well, it's past the age, isn't it? Like after a certain age, it's considered classic, just like a car.
Oh yeah, the song. Classic rock is right. It's an age thing, right? I mean, not so much. I mean, say Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath
Past
is still
20
around
years.
now. You know, if Black Sabbath releases an album now, it's not classic rock. I mean, the album they released 30 years ago is classic rock, right?
Agreed, but they still take 13, for instance, and still call it classic rock on classic rock station.
Well, not on this show because that's wrong.
It is wrong. That's
Right.
what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. The other thing I'm starting to see that I'm not a big fan of is all these bands making cover albums.
I agree with that 100%. One of my favorite bands, Disturbed, and I really wish they would get away from doing the cover songs. They are so much better by themselves. They don't need to be doing this cover crap.
Now they released. It's an album of just cover songs.
No, probably about every one of their albums has 2 or 3 cover songs on it, and it's unnecessary.
Well, everybody looks at Alien Ant Farm, whose whole career was defined by a Michael Jackson cover.
Yeah, and playing on top of BET television and getting arrested after doing it.
Well, you were speaking of Alice Cooper earlier. He did that Hollywood Deads with Johnny Depp playing, little.
That's
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
Joe Perry. I mean, a lot of that. I'm just not a big fan of a group that comes out and does a whole covers album. To me, it's almost
Right,
lazy.
not putting a couple of covers on an album, but a whole covers.
Yeah,
That's not really lazy. That to me means at a loss for good ideas.
I don't think so. I disagree with that. Hollywood Undead was originally formed under that. It was to pay tribute to the rock and rollers that had passed, that had made a big influence on the rockers that are now. So it's not so much as they're sitting back making money off of, which they are making money off these reboots, but it's so much paying homage to some of these rockers that have passed
Yeah, it's
away.
a different category. I would say, you had Metallica did it.
Yeah, I think what Chuckles is saying, right? That's a slightly different story. I mean, that's like Seth said. Well, it goes back to John Lennon, back when after from in history when the Beatles broke up. Paul McCartney is a prolific songwriter. John Lennon not so much, and John Lennon just made one commercial. He made some good music, but it was commercially unsuccessful, and he didn't know what to do next.
Right.
I guess if Yoko Ono is nagging you in one of your ears, it's hard to come up
creative.
Be creative, absolutely.
Right,
Just want to look at it. It would sap my creativity. But so what John Lennon did is he made that album called Rock and Roll, which is basically just going back and recording a bunch of Little Richard tunes and this rock and roll from the 50s, and pretty much that ever since that set the example. Whenever Joan Jett did it,
Elvis did it.
Whenever
Elvis just put his name on it.
but I'm thinking Joan Jett. Even the Ramones did it, and you can see it coming almost. Like I said, the Alice Cooper one, that's a little different. That was a method. That was a
Guns
method
N'
to the
Roses
madness.
is huge on doing cover songs. Some of their biggest songs are cover songs.
Right, but you can see it coming. When a band has released maybe like 3 or 4 albums of crap in a row, and the ideas are becoming less and less, and the good songs are becoming less and less, you can almost time it. Okay, the next one is going to be their tribute to their cover tribute.
It's that or a live album, one or the other.
Yeah, well, they've already done the bands in question. Most of them have already done the live album.
Oh yeah, Cooper's done like 6 live albums.
Once you've done the live album, then the only thing you can do is to go to that cover album and call it a tribute. That's
I don't mind doing this. I mean, if you look at songs that made bands, I mean, You Really Got Me for Van Halen, I'm almost honest, more so with them than with the Kinks. If you look at bands having a couple of hits, Quiet Riot doing "Come On, Feel the Noise," which wasn't in the studio, was the worst version of doing the song, trying not to record it, and ends up being their biggest hit.
Well, that's 2 different things. Even that's 2 different. They're looking back at the classic rock bands. I mean, Van Halen was a good band, whether or not they did covers. They just happened to they liked doing covers. They put a couple on each album.
Well,
but their non-covers, their original music was pretty good too.
Agreed, but back then, the other thing too, even when you look at the '60s, the record label insisted on a cover so that you get popular by doing a song that's already known to the public. Not many bands came out and just did their own version. and got
Well,
hits.